At the Mill, we believe in great ideas. We believe in really helping to get brave work made. We believe our role is to help get stories told using our craft. And right now, perhaps more than ever, this is difficult. It's not straightforward. And it's because of that I'm perhaps more worried than I ever have been before. So here's a crazy stat that I read last week. Just kind of, my mind boggles when I hear it. On YouTube right now, there are 1,700 years of material, 1,700 years of content. Every day, almost 60 million images get uploaded to Instagram. I mean, that's just absolutely crazy. I put one up today, so don't know where that'll get. I guess what I'm getting at is the world doesn't need more content. There's plenty of it out there. But what it does need is creativity to cut through the content. And as I said, I'm a little concerned. You see, I was at an award show a couple of weeks ago, an industry award show for advertising. It showcases the best 50 commercials that have been produced in the UK in the last 50 years. We had a good night, actually. We produced or worked on more than a third of the ads. So I guess I should have left pretty happy. But I didn't. I left concerned. A thought was beginning to gather pace in my mind, one that was really niggling away at me. And I didn't leave concerned because we hadn't done enough of the work, though in truth, I always wish we'd done a few more. I left really because I was concerned that the body of work that we were looking at wasn't good enough, that the ideas weren't strong enough. And you see, when the story isn't strong enough, it doesn't engage the audience. And our industry is all about engaging audiences. It's all about making our viewers enjoy an experience. You know, the pioneers of our industry knew that really well. They laid down the foundations, they set the challenge. They broke the rules, and they did so with a new set of digital tools. Expensive and rare digital tools, in fact. And they moved from being simply technicians to much more than that. They became artists who were intrinsically linked to the story, to the narrative. So here I stand before you, a leader of the second generation of visual effects and animation. Perhaps not as brave as the first or as wild as the third, but I guess that's my lot. And my generation and my role has really been around professionalizing this industry, growing it, turning what was a niche activity into one of the most important parts of the UK economy. You see, creative services is the fastest growing part of the UK economy right now. It's not banking, it's not manufacturing, it's not gas and oil, it's creative services. In fact, creative services is predicted to be the growth engine of the UK economy over the next 10 years. We already employ more than 2.68 million people in the UK, and it's growing at a rate of 8% per annum. 8% per annum. There's no other industry in the UK that has experienced that kind of growth. It is phenomenal. And our industry now competes at a global level with the established careers of science, of law, of commerce, and we do so on a level playing field. It's perhaps a career that no longer raises an eyebrow in quite the same way as it did a couple of years ago from parents. It certainly did in my time. And why? Because the truth is, today, you can get a real job, you can get a brilliant career, and it can be in visual effects and animation. At the Mill, we've grown quite a lot over the years, over the last 24 years. We've now got more than 800 people with studios in New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago. We just moved into a brand new space in London as well. And so I kind of look at what my generation has done, and I think we've effectively democratized visual effects and animation. We've made it much more accessible. The tools that we now all use are much more intuitive. They're much more available. They're much more affordable. There's incredible tools for us to use. There's incredible education available to us in a way that never was before. But I ask a simple question. In all of this progress, in all of this development, have we embedded story right at the heart of what we do? I recently heard a phrase that really, really frightened me. It stopped me in my tracks. It related to how British universities talk about teaching animation and visual effects. The phrase was non-narrative animation. Non-narrative animation, it just doesn't make sense. It's not real. You see, every single time an animator picks up a pen, every single effect that we do is in the service of story. And what the artist brings to it is part of that story. So the idea that what we do isn't part of telling the story is incorrect. It doesn't matter how simple the effect is. We are telling stories. And perhaps it's interesting that in recent years at the Mill, we found ourselves hiring far more French animators than ever before. You might ask why. Well, we found ourselves doing that because French animation schools teach story first. The students learn how to tell a story, how to communicate emotion before they ever learn how to work in Maya or Houdini. And that's a powerful lesson for us. And we need to make sure that we're doing the right things. I think an event like this is really a right step in the right direction. It gives me great encouragement, and the BFX should be applauded for it. But we must be careful. We must be really, really careful. Mediocrity is the kind of watch out for all of us. You see, it's simple for me. I want all of you to be bringing great stories to life with our craft. I want British visual effects and animation to continue to be the very, very best in the world at what we do. And don't get me wrong, there's still fantastic work happening all the time. And the truth of it is, over the next couple of days, we're going to get to see some of the very, very best work that's happening out there. But we can't take this for granted. At the award show I mentioned earlier, which is frankly a pretty good barometer of creativity, certainly in the advertising sector, as I said, I left concerned. Undoubtedly, there was some great work. In fact, there was a lot of great work for charity organizations. And again, I think as industry leaders, it's a real responsibility for companies like us to get behind and support those charity organizations. However, where were the big hits from the big brands? Because make no mistake, the big brands are the paymasters of our industry. And their hits were few and far between. So, okay, you might say, well, that's advertising for you. Advertising or brand communications is part of a wider creative community. And I believe that the advertising industry, the film industry, the gaming industry, all stand at the edge of the same creative crisis. If we do not recognize the power of storytelling and visual effects, then we do ourselves a gross disservice. The chilling truth is that if we're not connecting with an audience with the visual effects we do, then those visual effects and animation techniques become irrelevant, or even worse, redundant. And we know this. Intuitively, we know this. The obvious example is blockbuster sequels. I mean, how many do we get to watch that are better than the original? Yeah, there are a few, but they're not many. But let me give you some examples of how I believe visual effects and animation can help to serve our story. Why does a cloud moving through a sky for a Guinness ad stop you in your tracks? Why do 100,000 multicolored bouncy balls falling down the streets of San Francisco make you smile? Why did a Nike ad called Write the Future get watched over and over and over again on YouTube? A 5-minute ad gets watched over and over again, breaking all sorts of records. Why do we find the effects on gravity so arresting? Why do we love the animation of the Lego movie? Well, it's pretty simple. All of these stories move us at an emotional level. The story that the effects serve is powerful. The visual effects and animation are relevant and vital. So you might ask, okay, what's all that mean for me if I want a career in this industry? You know, there's no doubting it, it's much more competitive than it's ever been before. This year, tens of thousands, more than ever before, students will graduate with degrees in disciplines related to animation and visual effects and gaming. You know, frightening one here. In one university alone in China, 2,000 students will graduate this year with degrees in animation. And most of them, pretty much all of them, will have access to the very same tools, the very same technology as you guys do. So what is going to set you guys apart? What's going to set British visual effects and animation apart? Well, you won't be surprised to hear me say, I believe it's storytelling. I believe it's creativity. Creativity, that magical ability to change the way a person feels, thinks, and acts, and to do so with words and pictures in the few precious moments they allow you. Yes, perfect your craft. Yes, learn the technology. But please, don't get blindly lost in the technology. And when we recruit artists, we look for brilliant individuals. We look for self-expression. We look for confidence. We look for showreels that demonstrate an ability to communicate an idea and emotion far more favorably than we do those who demonstrate technique. This is possibly a stat that you don't want to hear, but it's the truth. We receive at the mill alone, and I'm sure pretty much all the companies that you're going to hear today, we receive 800 CVs a week from all over the world. People who want to get into this industry. But what we're looking for is pretty simple. We're looking for people who really love what they do, who are passionate and dedicated. You see, just as banking and law and commerce, computer sciences are competitive, so is visual effects. There's no point in getting away from it. It's fiercely competitive, and at times it can be very, very demanding. But I guess our industry is different to the city boys. Okay, you get paid less for a start. But actually, I believe you get rewarded far more. You see, we make something. Every month, we have a showcase at the mill where I get to show the latest work that we've produced in that month. We get to look at the great work that we've been part of, the stories that we've helped tell, the stories that you guys can be part of telling too. And the ones that make it, the ones that come through, they're passionate, they're dedicated, and they're creative. They understand idea. They understand that our work is about communicating emotion. And there's no getting away from it. They put in long hours, often much more time than we would ever want or expect people to do. But we all do that in the pursuit of perfection, in the pursuit of the best work possible. And they'll all tell you the exact same as I'll tell you. This is a phenomenal industry to work in. It's a treat. And as the digital landscape changes rapidly, and God, it's changing rapidly, we need the brightest young minds to join us. We need a new generation of digital pioneers who share our passion for great stories, beautifully realized. What a time to come into the industry. It's a digital playground out there. It's yours for the taking. You know, we live in a world where we make a decision about the media that we watch in less than 5 seconds. Opt in, opt out. It needs to engage. In some ways, the linear model of my case, the 30-second TV ad or the 90-minute film, is now being challenged by new platforms. But this brings with it huge opportunity. It's not to say that the old platforms aren't relevant, but there are new opportunities for you guys. You know, at one end of the spectrum, we've got 1,700 years of content on YouTube. And actually, there are a whole series of YouTube bloggers who are rising to fame. But make no mistake, the ones that make it do so because they connect. They find an audience. They are relevant. Okay, it might be unpolished. It might not be the work that requires the skills that we do. But there are new platforms emerging all the time. And they create huge opportunity. At the other end of the spectrum, we've got developed in VR units, you know, Oculus Rift. Just imagine the immersive experiences we can create using our craft on these new platforms. So the opportunity for you guys is enormous. The opportunity to trailblaze. The opportunity to avert a creative crisis. To explore new and old platforms. To bring them to life with narrative-focused, emotion-driven visual effects and animation. Visual effects and animation that are bold and breathtaking, relevant and vital. The BFX has assembled a lineup for us today, over the next couple of days, that is just phenomenal. We're going to hear from some of the leading lights in our industry, some of whom I've been personally fortunate enough to work with, people I personally revere. And these people share the same passion as I do. They're relentlessly pushing the boundaries of what's possible in the service of communicating and telling great stories. So this is a phenomenal opportunity for you guys, for all of us, to learn about our craft, to learn about storytelling. Listen, learn, question, and challenge. That's how all of us get better. You guys are the next generation of visual effects and animation pioneers. You are the next generation of storytellers. And I want you guys to show people like me better ways of doing it. I know it's a cliche, but it's true. The world really is your oyster right now. Grab it with both hands and let your vision shape our future. I hope you enjoy the next couple of days. Thank you all very much.